Hi, Ted here. Today I just want to talk a little bit about management in the forest garden. We've been working on establishing our forest garden over the last 8 years, 10 years, something like that. And as part of that process, we have lots of plants and trees that just show up volunteer, not necessarily where we planted them or intend for them to be. So instead of seeing that as a problem, we just try to work with those plants. And in front of me is a good example. I have a Quaking Aspen that's sprouted. They spread by roots, and they'll sucker up all over the place. And these can be great. They're pioneer trees, colonizing sites that are open. You can see this one is getting up around 10 feet, 12 feet. Instead of just trying to cut this or pull it out or dig out the root system so it won't be here, we're trying to work with it by a technique called pollarding. And basically what that is letting the tree grow up to a height that you want, and then cutting it back each few seasons to encourage new growth to come. And you can see where I cut this last year, in these areas, which is about 6 feet, the height of my head. And all of this is new growth from this year, putting on 6-8 feet of new growth in various areas. So what I'm gonna do here, it's late summer, early fall, is simply go around to this new growth with my pruners and snip it back in the same areas that I pruned last year. So it's pretty easy with the aspen. It's rather soft wood. I'm just going to repeat that process around the whole plant. Now the base, the main trunk that I'm leaving, is going to continue to grow and get larger. In each season or two, as I come back and re-prune, it will continue to put off these new growths of new shoots each year. Now the reason I do this is I want this area to remain open and not get shaded in. But I'm also producing a lot of biomass now with these cuttings. So I'm gonna clip these up and feed them around my fruit trees that are planted in the area to help feed them. And this technique will work with most hardwood trees. It doesn't work very well with conifers. And typically I would be doing this in the early spring, before the trees are breaking their dormancy and the buds are swelling. And that's to avoid any injury of the winter. I'm really not too concerned about this aspen, and it's super hardy. I think now is just a fine time to do it. But yeah, this technique is called pollarding. It's a very old management technique for trees to keep them young and vigorous. There's a related technique called coppicing, which is basically the same thing, except you're taking the tree down right at the base of the ground and letting it resprout from there. Pollarding, it has its advantages as well, maybe keeping it above the browse level of animals. In this case, yeah, it's just easier for me to manage, so I do it at about shoulder level. The technique will actually keep trees alive longer than if they just were growing on their own. And there's examples in Europe of trees living over 1,000 years that have been coppiced or pollarded continuously on rotation systems, especially like oaks. Yeah, it's a good technique, working with the plants that are showing up, creating biomass so that you can feed your other plantings, and not viewing as things being out of place. They're where they want to be for a reason. We need to work with them and not against them. Thanks for watching.